All right, guys. Welcome back to the Self-Made Project podcast. I got my boy Tomas, franchise owner of Costa Mesa. Very unique story in the sense of Tomas. And Tomas has a lot to bring to the table. I just recently heard one of his recent podcasts that really, I was like, I got to get him on here. And the reason for it is I think more people need to hear your story. Where you come from, what you're about, and really understand the way you think. Because I think if a lot of people can think the way you think and feel the way you feel, they would get themselves out of very dark places. And especially in today's world, dealing with so much mental health, so much stress, and so much change and uncertain of our world. You know, things can happen overnight, literally. Plain example, you know, a lot of things happen to you overnight, especially one specific thing that we're going to talk on that could have either propelled you to a very dark path and stay there, or currently where you're at today, right? So Tomas, my boys, everybody, welcome him. Tell us a little bit about you first and foremost, you know, and then we'll get into the meat and potatoes, dude.
Okay. First of all, thank you for having me. It's appreciate being here. It's an honor. Like Miguel said, my name is Tomas Delamora. I'm the owner of Self-Made Costa Mesa. I run it with my nephew, Jay Gonzalez, and so it's a family-run operation. And prior to getting into this business, I was a federal agent for 20 years. And in 2015, I was involved in a motorcycle accident, which unfortunately took my leg, and as well as some other issues. But after my accident, I kind of stood around at home thinking, oh, I'm going to retire anyways. My goal was to retire at 47. I had set everything up. So I said, at 47, I'll retire. I'm just going to chill and relax. And when I got out of the hospital, I went home, and in 3 months, I was going crazy. I thought being home, I'll be able to relax, enjoy my retired life. I could not. I was just, it was just too much for me. It was, So I started getting out. My nephew started training me, and he kind of wanted me to get back into working out, which I hadn't done for decades. You know, I used to be a fighter in my 20s, and after that, when I stopped fighting, I kind of stopped working out religiously after that. And my nephew was like, hey, let me, work out, let help you get back on your feet. At the time, I was still on crutches. So I said, hey, what the hell? I need to get out of the house. So I started working out with my nephew, and started working out. I started liking it again, and I was like, this is great. And then my nephew had to switch gyms because of the issue he was having with the owner where he was at, and he discovered Self-Made. And when he found Self-Made, he was like, found this great gym, you got to come look at it, you'll like it, it's really, really cool. We went, and honestly, we didn't like it. I fucking fell in love with it. You walk into a Self-Made facility, just the aesthetics, the colors, the red, against the black walls, the graffiti. It hits you. Yeah. It hits you. And to me, I think you either walk in and love it, or you walk in and be like, oh my God, this is
intimidating.
Weird. Yeah. Intimidating, exactly. I walked in, I loved it. Yeah. And I was like, man, this is wonderful. This is kind of like, has like a dungeon-ness feel for a gym, but it's not a dungeon. And it's not the bougie, you feel weird sweating at a gym. Totally. Like, you can put in work. Yeah. And that's when I was like, man, I love this place. And my nephew says, well, they sell these things. And I was like, yeah? And he's like, yeah. And at the time, I'm thinking, I got to do something. I got to figure out something. I got to get busy. Yeah. And because I would wake up every single day like, okay, what am I going to do today? I'm like, well, shit, I don't got nothing to do. Run a few errands, that's it. That's 20 hours. Like, no, I have to find something to do. So I started, when my nephew brought this opportunity to me, we looked into it, and that's when I met you and I started talking to you, and I just said, wow, this is a great opportunity. I like it. I love everything about it. The business opportunity, the way it just affects everybody. It's not just like a type of business where only one person wins. Mm-hmm. You create the win-win-win here, and that's what I love about it. Yeah. So that's basically how I got involved in Self-Made, and that was in 2016. 17. Yeah, 2017 was when we decided, okay, we're going to do this. Yeah. And so here we are 5 years later.
5 years later, we've seen a lot of growth in both your guys' location and you and Jay, myself, our relationship, which we'll get into a little bit in depth so people understand how things go up, go down, go plateau, then now back up. And I think it's true that it would be unjust to not be transparent with our audience, right? Because what you're about to tell these guys, I really want them to understand, you guys, how being emotionally intelligent will allow you to understand where these emotions are coming from the act to buying a franchise, from the act to, you know, getting to actually do something with your life, even after a very tragic situation. But I honestly don't think things happen by accident. No. What happened to you is not an accident. No. Even though it was an accident that created this, right? But it's not by accident.
Technically, it's called an accident.
Technically, if you want to be correct on that. But let's go back to being a federal agent. 20 years, dude. That's a huge commitment. So you're most likely planning on retiring, right? I know you loved your job.
Oh, man. To say I love my job is an understatement.
Yeah.
You know, when I was in high school, you know, my senior year, last football game, we lose in the playoffs, and I'll never forget my coach. His name was Coach Cordray. He sat all the seniors down and told us all, hey, you're about to embark on life. Some of you go to the military, some of you go to college, some of you come families, whatever. He goes, whatever you do for a living, if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. Mm-hmm. And that hit me. And I was like, because he goes, you think I work? I don't. He goes, every day I get to come and coach you guys. Mm-hmm. And I feel like I'm playing because this. And I was like, man, he makes a point. Yeah. So ever since then, it stayed in me. I'm like, love what you do. And when I was young, I always loved law enforcement. I always loved being of service to people. And I always loved being a protector. Yeah. That's just innate in me. Mm-hmm. So it was a natural choice to go into law enforcement, and I had an opportunity to go the federal route right away, and I didn't know much about it, but I did, and I started working with the U.S. Marshal Service, and it was great. I loved it. Mm-hmm. From there, I transferred, you know, within the Department of Justice. I started working with the Bureau of Prisons, and then after 9/11, I became an air marshal because, like a lot of people, everybody remembers where they were at the morning of 9/11.
That was wild.
Everybody remembers.
Wild.
You know, the people that let me say this again. The people that were old enough that remember exactly where they're at, that's a moment you'll never forget.
I know.
And I remember watching this and thinking, wow, we're being attacked.
Yeah.
You know, and I was like, we need to step up and defend, you know, the people that can't defend themselves. Yeah. So this opportunity came up to be an air marshal. I did it, and I loved it. It was great. I was good at what I did. Mm-hmm. So after about 20 years, I'm working. I'm thinking, okay, I'm making plans for my retirement, and then this accident happens, and that fast forwards everything. And I'm just thinking, okay, great. This is not what I wanted. And of course, nobody wants to retire with one leg. And so I was like, okay, I have to figure things out. I have to pivot and pivot hard. You know. And going back to what you were saying earlier about the things that people go through and stuff like that. People always ask me, what is it? What was it about you that? And I can't really pinpoint one exact thing to sit there and say, well, it was this that made me do this. Yeah. But if I had to break it down and like abbreviate it, I would just sit there and I would say, no matter what, as long as your mind is stronger than your feelings, you can do whatever you want.
I agree.
The problem is people get so caught up with their feelings. Your feelings will keep your ass in fucking bed all day. Depressed, covers over the head, you know? Feelings will do a lot of bad things. Yeah. So you just can't. You have to focus.
I want to emphasize on that because you're right. Because it's like I always tell people, first look at it. It starts here, then it goes to your heart, and then your body will react. So one, you have to have your mindset right. If your mindset right, then you get an emotional connection, which is your heart and your soul. Okay, I'm passionate about this. This is what I'm going to do. And then by nature, because you're so passionate about doing something, you're inspired to do something, and or you have to do that something because it's sink or swim. Your body will react to it, right? And people usually start here, then they try to manipulate this, but by then the emotions are way too controlling. This is what I talk about being emotionally intelligent. I think you're a very emotionally intelligent man because you're able, from what I observe, and the second time hearing the story already, right, is understanding that those emotions are valid. Whatever you're feeling through every chapter of your life thus far, you were in tune with those and you reacted to it because you're able to have your mind right. But also you had to chin check yourself, which we're going to talk about during 2020, you know, the year that everybody was forced to stay home.
The world.
A thing of a box of Oreos a day, you know. It's true.
Yeah,
but again, how many people out there got stuck in that situation, right? And so going back to the aspect of being in that position, right, for 20 years, you're accustomed. It's no longer a habit. It's literally your lifestyle.
Yeah.
This is what you did. This is what you loved as well. Which again, guys, listen. He loved what he did prior to self-made. So there's a difficult thing that one would have to overcome after an accident like this. What are you gonna do next? You're an amputee. Okay. They offered you a desk job, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Okay, I can't fucking see this guy behind the fucking desk.
No way.
I was like, oh my god, bro. Dude. But it's again, you had the choice. You could have stayed there,
Yeah, of
you know,
course.
but you knew you'd be miserable. How do you make that decision? Like, what was the pivotal point at that point in time to say, hey, fuck, dude, it's almost like a divorce. You're divorcing your job. You're having to leave forcefully because of a situation.
You know, thinking back, since you put it that way, when I had my accident February 7th of 2015, I was in and out of the hospital up until June of that year.
Wow.
So between February 7th and June, there was a total amount of time of 3 weeks that I was home. But the rest of that time, those 4.5 months, I was in the hospital. And being in the hospital, honestly, it felt like jail.
Wow.
Because, number one, I could not get up. I couldn't move. I was completely non-ambulatory. So I literally sat there in my thoughts, you know, for hours on end.
Wow.
For months. So the only thing I had to do was, I was like, okay, I did not want to watch TV. For some reason, I was just turned off by TV. I would actually listen to podcast. But I wouldn't listen to podcasts because I wanted to feel something. Like sometimes people listen to podcasts like, oh, I want to feel motivated. So they'll put on someone like Andy Frisella. It's like, oh, you get fired up.
Yeah.
I wasn't like that. I wanted to listen to podcasts to forget about what I was going through.
Yeah.
So I would listen to comedy. I love anybody that knows me, I'm a comic. I like joking around. I've always been that way. So I would listen to my favorite comedian, a guy at the time, his name Bill Burr. He has this thing called the Monday Morning Podcast. And I would just listen to it, and I would download everything, because he had hours of content. So I would listen to Bill Burr, and music-wise, I would listen to Jay-Z. I'm a huge Jay-Z fan. Anybody knows me, I'm a Jay-Z fan. And those two things, Jay-Z's music for me kept me motivated. Because I relate a lot to what he's talking about. And if you understand his music and his art, and you see the way he speaks kind of like in code, where he'll say something, but it means something different, totally. And I love that. So that made my mind constantly think. And kind of like art, one of the reasons I love art, because it makes you think. You know, Jay-Z's music makes me think. And it was my distraction. And I think having that distraction constantly, every single day, I didn't have time to worry about, am I going to go back to work? What am I going to do? My thing at that point was, okay, you're not a survivor. Because I never liked being called a survivor.
True.
Fuck that, I'm a thriver.
Yeah.
I want to thrive. I don't want to survive.
Yeah.
You know? And I've always told people that. And I've always said, in life, there are no problems, there are only solutions.
100%.
Focus on the fucking solution. You forget about the problems, you forget about everything else, and you're just focused, you know? So that is call it my blueprint of what I use. I just sit there and I say, okay, in life there are no problems, there are solutions. What is the solution? Okay, that solution's not going to work. Next, next. Find it, and go. And that's what I tell people. Whenever people get into these, I don't know what to do, I'm like, man, fucking move.
I think people need to understand. I heard what is it, Andrew Tate, right? The most recent guy that's really out there. He had this podcast that where he stated, you know, if this person has done X, whether it be a lavish, you know, Ferrari or a successful multi-million-dollar career, versus looking at it as you know, with envy, jealousy, or depression, or anything like that, like putting yourself in that box, right? Looking at it again, to flip the word solution, the how. How did they do that? Because you think about it, you have other amputees in this world that have been super successful physically, mentally, spiritually, in all aspects of life. How did they do it, right? And you figured out the how a lot sooner than later, which ended up helping you out a lot, I would assume.
Absolutely, absolutely. I was in the hospital and I was like thinking to myself, Jesus Christ, you know, I'm like, I have a 7-year-old son. I'm a single dad. I'm like, okay, this is what I know how to do and I love doing career-wise.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, oh, that's going to change dramatically.
Did that fucking freak you out?
Hell yeah. Hell yeah, absolutely.
Scared?
Fuck yeah. Anybody who sits there and tells you different is full of shit.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, I was very fortunate that throughout my life, I've always been, you know, I don't like to sit there and pat myself on the back and say I'm a successful businessman,
Yeah.
but I've always been wise with my money. And
Yeah.
I've always respected money, and I've never been happy unless my money was working for me.
Yeah,
you know?
totally.
And I remember hearing one time, my dad told me a long time ago, he was like, yeah, when you can go to sleep and your money's still working for you, you're in a good position.
Yeah.
So I knew to put myself in that position.
Yeah.
And I did that very early on in life.
Okay,
like,
good.
instead of buying a house, I went and bought apartments.
Yeah.
I had family units
Yeah.
paying me rent. So, in other words, I wasn't so focused like, okay, this is my career, it's over, what am I going to do? And I was like, well, there's a lot of other things I know how to do.
Yeah.
I just got to apply myself.
Yeah.
I just got to figure out and do something different.
Yeah.
You know, that's it.
In the time frame in the hospital, were you strategically planning that ahead?
No.
Or, it's like, how can you even get your mind right? How
No.
can you get your mind wrapped around you that you no longer had a leg? Like help us understand that feeling, because I can only imagine. And look, I'm also going to get into where we're not just talking about being an amputee. That's like a fraction of what we're about to get into. It's understanding the situation that has happened to you. Didn't happen, it didn't happen to you, it happened for you, right? But we don't understand that till later on. So in the time that you were in the hospital, knowing that you no longer have a leg, you just have a career that is possibly ended because you didn't know about the desk job yet, you didn't know about what was going on through your head. Was there any self-sabotaging thoughts? Was there, like, be real, dude, like, did you,
Absolutely.
where were you at mentally?
I tell people like this, okay? I had, in that period of time, the reason why I was in the hospital so much is I had 11 surgeries.
Holy shit.
I had 7 surgeries on my leg. Because my leg, I started out actually cut right here. My accident cut my leg completely off right here, and my leg was hanging. I showed you the pictures,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So I started out as an amputee right here, then they went through the knee, and then now I'm above the knee.
Yeah.
So that alone was 7 operations that they did on my leg. And then in addition to that, because I had so much blood loss at the scene when my leg came off, is I had other parts of my organs were affected. The oxygen to your organs is your blood.
Yeah.
You lose a lot of blood,
Yeah.
your organs suffer. And I started having a lot of GI issues.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had 4 surgeries for that. So actually, when I'm in the hospital, I kept thinking, like, am I going to get better?
Yeah.
Or is this it?
Mm-hmm.
Is this the rest of my life? Or am I going to get better? And just when I thought I was getting better, they would come tell me, oh, we need to do surgery again.
No,
we need to do surgery. And after like the 5th or 6th one, you give up hope. You're
Yeah.
like, okay, you start preparing for the next surgery.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
you're like, well, this is how it's going to go.
Yeah.
This is how I'm going to win. This is the only thing I can do. Luckily, I tell people, like, people tell me, like, what was it that inspired you, that kept you motivated? And I say, for me, it's very simple. My son,
Yeah.
he was 7 years old at the time. My son, his name is Diego Tomas. And I was not done making him the man that, sorry if I get emotional, but this is important to me. I was not done making him the man I wanted him to be.
Yeah, bro.
And I think it's very, very, very important, us as men, as fathers, a lot of times we're not given enough credit, and we're cool with it. We're like, whatever,
But at some point, we can be cool with it. Because at the end of the day, how many men hasn't made it to the other side? Think about it. How many men in your situation, in our situation, with our backgrounds, didn't make it to the other side?
Yeah.
Suicide.
Yes.
Drug abuse.
Yes.
Alcoholism. I can
go down the list of friends that I worked with,
You told me that story the other day, dude, and when we're on the phone, and I just got done hearing that one podcast that you did, and I literally, instead of texting you, I called you.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is why I wanted to have you on here, is because of this platform that you have now, right? And the ability to really engage with your story and empathize with your story. Like, more men need to hear this. you should give yourself a pat on the back. We should get more recognition being the men that we are, because we're masculine men, alpha men, not toxic, right? Because you want to be able to leave that legacy with your son. And that alone drove that success to overcome this accident.
True story. So when they come, they're working on me. They put me in the ambulance, and I'll never forget. So I know where I'm at, and I'm in the ambulance, and so they're driving away. And the first thing I asked them, I said, which trauma center are you taking me to? And I knew where I was at. I said, the closest trauma center is this place. It's called St. Francis. And I said, are you taking me to St. Francis? He says, I don't know. I said, okay, cool. I said, write this phone number down. I said, because I don't know how much longer I'm going to stay awake. So this phone number is to reach my family, and they'll know everything what to do. So I gave them my cousin Lupe's phone number, and then I'm in the ambulance, and he's like, hey, I know this is a stupid question. He said, but do you want something for the pain? And I said, yes, please. And he looked at me, and he goes, on a scale of 1 to 10, and he goes, I know this is a stupid question because your leg is literally dangling off you. Yeah. He goes, what's your pain level? And I just smiled, and I was like, it's beyond a 10, bro.
Oh, shit.
And he asked me, he goes, are you allergic to anything? And I got run over by a diesel truck. It was red with a white trailer. So he asked me, he goes, are you allergic to anything? And I was like, yeah, red diesel trucks with white trailers. And he goes, fucking, and he looked at me, and he was like, are you joking right now? And I was like, well, yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
And I said, look, bro, I said, don't work on me like I'm dying. I said, I still have a son to raise. Yeah. And so right away, my focus was like, I need to stay alive. My son is 7 years old. I'm in the ambulance. I'm picturing him that morning, having breakfast with him, the look on his face. And I'm saying, nah, I'm not done there.
Yeah.
I'm not done. So, and it was funny because, so he tells me, he goes, I'm going to give you morphine. So he gives me morphine, and I guess he gave me so much morphine I passed out.
Yeah.
But, so this, about a week later, he comes to visit me in the hospital bed. I don't know who this guy is. He comes in, and, my cousin said, hey, someone's here to see you. And I looked, I was like, I don't know who he is. And he goes, hey, I was the guy in the ambulance. I'm the EMT that worked on you. And I said, oh, do I owe you something? Like, are you here to collect? What?
Yeah.
And he says, no. He goes, I had to meet you. And I said, why? He said, when I gave you the medication and you were in the ambulance, he goes, your eyes were closed. You started talking. You started saying, we're going to exit Rosecrans. We're going to make a left turn. We should be going under the freeway, the 605 freeway. We're going to make a right turn. We're going to get back on the freeway. I was describing everything that was happening with my eyes closed as I was passing out.
Wow.
And he goes, you remember doing that? I said, no. I said, but I'm not surprised I did that. I said, when I do foreign dignitary work overseas, I said, we always prepare. If you ever get kidnapped, you're going to get blindfolded, know where you're at, your steps, everything, So that's innate in me now. That's just how I am. I operate from a security standpoint. So I was doing that. And then he goes, I had to meet you because, he goes, I've heard about people like you that they could be dying and they'll be joking around, not giving a shit, or just focus on something else. And he goes, I've heard of people like that, but I've never met one until I met you. Yeah. And he goes, like, I had to come meet you. I had to come talk to you. And I was like, you want an autograph?
What's up? Sign right here.
Selfie time? No, but I was kind of like, it's cool. I was like, damn, you came to meet me? Like, I don't think I'm that fucking special, but.
And that's a trip. But again, this is why you have then stepped into this leadership role with Self-Made, is because you do leave an impact on a lot of people, dude. An impact on myself just recently. When I called you, when we had that conversation over the phone, and I was like, bro, I couldn't even really articulate my words properly of how proud I am of you, but then how much you have to give, and so much that people, I think, need to listen to your story even more so. And hopefully this does reach the masses, and then you'll end up getting more speaking engagements, because I think people really truly need to listen and understand how to overcome these obstacles given the accident that you had, but not. The accident wasn't, again, it didn't happen, to you, it happened for you.
Yeah, exactly.
And we'll get into that aspect of it. So you left a 20-year career, you got into obviously you weren't doing anything for a while, right?
Whole year.
Your body probably wasn't reacting the way you wanted to react. It was probably going completely south, right? Luckily, you have your nephew, who's a phenomenal dude, started training you and then took you on. You then decided to open up self-made. So we fast forward all that, right? But even owning a gym, even owning a training facility, you weren't all there.
No.
You weren't. Like, we know this, you know this, and I personally know now that this is a Tomas that I know everybody needs to see, because this is, I think, for the first time, really truly feel like I know you. Like, this is the real Tomas that's always been there, but had this gap in a chapter of his life that was kind of uncertain, right? So how exactly did you overcome that aspect? Like, you had a full-on accessible gym, dude, 24/7. You're the owner. People are looking at you and your nephew to run and operate this place and lead them by example, but yet you weren't leading by example. And now you look at your transformation, it's like, fuck, dude, it's not even the same fucking person. And we're gonna do some B-roll shots so you can see his before and afters. You're gonna trip out, and they're not fucking photoshopped. It's not photoshopped whatsoever, you know?
Yeah.
But 2020. You're forced to stay home. Like, thank God for my sobriety during that time, because honestly, dude, I would have either ended up overdosed or dead for sure if I was still living the lifestyle that I was living back then. How did you overcome that, dude? Because you're a people person, and to tell a person like you to stay home in a situation like this, that you're still, because you said it took you 5 years to finally be in tune to what's really going on with you.
Mm-hmm.
So how?
I think I'll explain from the beginning. When my nephew approached me with this idea, at first I was like, well, what the fuck do I know about running a gym?
Yeah.
And he was like, I know how to do it. I'll do it. Blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, great. If you want to do it, cool. Show me how. So at first, I wasn't a very hands-on owner. I was kind of like, I'm right here, you know. And 2020 happened, and honestly, shit, it was one of those depressing times. Yeah. Man, I'm usually a happy-go-lucky person, but if you want to get me sad, make me think about 2020.
Yeah.
Because I never forget the day when the city came and told me, hey, you have to shut down right now.
I remember.
And they were like, code enforcement, police, and I was like, shit. And of course, this is the beginning of the pandemic. Nobody knows what's happening.
No.
This is just the fact that everyone's running spray.
The first 4 weeks.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, shit. So I closed down. And then I closed down, and then I was at home. And then I was at home every single day, and I was like, man, this is depressing. I mean, we talk about the Oreos, but I'll tell you straight out, I was eating a whole sleeve of Oreos, like 1 or 2 a day. I'm not bullshitting. That's what I was eating, you know? And I wasn't sick or anything, just depressed, you know? And that's the only thing that would make me feel better.
Yeah.
And like anybody who overeats and eats the wrong bullshit when they're depressed, you know, it's a snowball effect, you know? Yeah. And it was bad. A couple times I drove to my gym, like literally 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I would walk into an empty gym and get even more depressed because I'm used to the hustle and bustle and things moving and people lifting and the weights clanking and so forth. And it was just quiet. And I was like, man, this sucks. Mm-hmm. This really, really sucks. Once again, I think back to the words that this individual, I call him the chief, but he's my compadre's dad. He was like a second dad to me, and man, I love very, very much. He's the one that taught me a lot of things, but mainly the one about in life there are no problems, only solutions. Because I'll never forget when one day I talked to him and he's like, hey, you sound like you're depressed. You okay? And I was like, nah, I'm so sad right now. I'm like, this is going on. And he was like, okay, well, what are you focusing on? Yeah. And that started the conversation. And when he told me that, I was like, shit, it's true. Yeah. You know? So after that, I just started adapting it. So I just went right back to what I knew. Yeah. Hey, in life, there are no problems, only solutions. Yeah. Focus on the fucking solution. Yeah. Throw the fucking Oreos away. Stop buying the big ass Oreo boxes from Costco. Yeah. You know, they're not doing you any good. They're not serving you any value.
No. There's no purpose behind that.
I did the same thing with alcohol. Yeah. Recently, I completely gave up alcohol. I don't drink
for
alcohol.
You, bro.
You know?
Yeah. It's toxic. If you think about it,
it provides no value.
And not only that, I always go back, and I've said it multiple times, and I'll state it again. If you don't love and respect yourself, how do you expect somebody else to love and respect you, right? And then, or in return, how can you love and respect them? And you're leading young entrepreneurs, and that's one thing that you've done by switching this switch and people seeing your transformation, witnessing what you're doing, the involvement now hands-on, full-on hands-on with Self-Made. Look at the dynamic that has happened in the last 6 months, more than 6 months, huh? How long has it been your transformation already? You've been at this how long?
Well, to go back a little, I started in April.
Okay.
And the reason why it would happen in April, I got lazy.
Yeah.
I wasn't focused on training. My problem is I can easily get distracted. Once my ADD kicks in, oh my God, my distractions to the roof. And I was concentrating on another little project I was doing and so forth, and the gym just became second nature, or third or fourth. Yeah. Like, it happens. And I got to the point where my leg stopped fitting me. My prosthetic leg started fitting me because my residual leg, because of the weight gain, there was so much volume that it was not fitting me. I started having back problems, and I go to my prosthetist, and I'm like, hey, man, I'm like, my leg, something's wrong with my leg. It doesn't fit. And I jumped on a scale now. I had not jumped on a scale. And I jumped on a scale, and I was like, 270 pounds? Are you fucking kidding me, fat ass?
No.
Yes.
Way,
yes. It was 270
You hide it very well. Very good looking 270, huh? This guy.
So I was like, Jesus Christ. I literally, had a nervous breakdown for about 2 seconds. And I called up one of my trainers. This guy's name is Paco. He runs a team called Team Live Alpha. And I said, hey, bro, I need you. And I had just hired him to train my wife. Yeah. So he's training my wife. He has her on prep. She's getting amazing results. And I just called him up and I say, bro, I need you to put me on the same program as my wife. Not because I wanted to compete, just because I said, well, if she's eating this food and it's helping her, I'm going to make her cook that for me. I'm going to start eating this. Yeah. And that's where it's going to start. Yeah. And that's where it started. I started training with him the next day. And what it was is I took ownership. Yeah. And that's, I think, one of the things that a lot of people don't like to do. They don't like taking ownership of their bullshit. 100%. And the 270-pound fat ass was my fucking bullshit. Yeah. It wasn't anybody else's. It was all me. Yeah. So I said, all right, enough, fucker. Yeah. Let's go. Yeah. Make a change. So I started training, started dieting, and then little by little, the pounds started coming off, and I started feeling better. And then around July, I was at a show in Vegas. Bodybuilding show, NPC bodybuilding show, muscle contest, and when they announced the masters division, they go up. I was like, oh, this is where I live. These are the 50-year-olds, and
yes, he's 50.
I'm 50 years old.
Fucking guy.
So they walk up there, and I looked at them, and I was like, okay, maybe I'm an asshole, or maybe it's like challenging myself but I was like, I'm gonna fucking do that. Yeah. And never in my life did I ever think I would be a guy with my eating habits, step on stage. Yeah, right. So I just looked at them and I just said, hey, you know what? I can do that. Yeah. And I looked at my coach and I was like, hey, I want to do that. He goes, well, that's my goal for you. So awesome. I said, all right, cool. Let's keep going. Yeah. Let's keep going. And so now I'm about 220. I've lost about 50 pounds. Yeah. And training every day.
Healthy 50 pounds.
Yeah,
too.
Very healthy 50 pounds.
Very healthy because you don't have that skinny fat look. Yeah. You're well rounded. You have actual muscle now, which before there was not even close to that.
It was underneath a lot of fat.
A lot of fat, bro. And again, look at what you guys can take away from this. This is the how-to. Yeah. That simple. All it took is a couple things to happen in your life to be able to say, hey, enough is enough. This is how I'm going to do it.
People, every time I talk to people, or people talk to me and they always tell me what's happening in their life, I always find the same common denominator every fucking time. Yeah. They start telling me about what they're going through, and I'm just listening, and I sit there and I say, when are you going to fucking own it? Yeah. Yeah. I go, when are you going to fucking own it? When are you going to stop telling your fucking story that you like hearing? Yeah. And when are you going to own it and just say, fuck it, and make a change?
And people need to, when people have a fucked up history or a fucked up life, mine was my childhood, yours was obviously the accident that created the, I wouldn't even call it a setback, bro, because you look at where you're at today. Like, it's like, I wouldn't even call it a setback.
It's funny when people sit there and they say that. Look, right now I can sit there and I say, man, it wasn't really a setback, it was just a pivot, but I remember when it happened, like, God, it was like, it wasn't a setback. It was like, your life is over.
Over, yeah.
You're going to create a new one, you know?
Yeah.
And recently someone asked me, they said, hey, what would you do if you were to see the guy that hit you?
Yeah.
You know? And I remember being upset because the day of the accident, like, he stood there. He didn't watch. He didn't help me.
He didn't help, I remember that.
No, he
Yeah,
just
you told
stood
me
there,
about
just
that.
kind of like, and here I am literally dying on the freeway, blood everywhere, and he's just watching me flipping his phone. And I'll never forget that image. And I was thinking, like, wow, how can someone be so heartless, you know?
Yeah.
And then for a while after that, I carried that anger because I would remember that image. And I would sit there and say, that motherfucking piece of shit.
Yeah.
But once again, that was my fucking story.
Yeah.
And then one day I just sat there and I said, you know what? Give him grace.
Yeah.
He was probably scared shitless.
Yeah.
He's probably never been in that position before,
Yeah.
just like you.
Yeah.
He didn't know how to act or react.
Yeah.
Cool, it is what it is. And when someone asked me the day, they said, "What would you do if you met him?"
Yeah.
And I said, "Actually, honestly, I can genuinely say this with all my heart. And when I mean this, and I say, I would thank him,
What a fucking trip, dude.
because if that wouldn't have happened, I wouldn't be here right now.
Yeah.
You know, I wouldn't have met you. I wouldn't have been a part of the Self-Made family.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, I fucking love my life, Miguel.
Yeah. I know. That's
do.
why I know, because I've talked to you
Yeah.
multiple times already before, and I know you love your life.
Yeah,
and
I
this
do,
is the thing. You're recently married.
Yeah, I got married in March.
Yeah, beautiful situation there, because I've seen that, and I've seen how you've embraced that fully, like open-hearted. You can see like I said, I finally get to know the real Tomas.
Yeah.
And it's cool to watch and witness, even at Bay, you know, through social media, our interactions every so often. But you've come a long way, but I know there's so much more to go. And this is where I'm hoping comes out of this, is that we can propel that to a whole nother level, because more people need.
Well, I'm excited to do it.
Yeah, I'm excited to watch that and witness that next chapter.
Yeah.
You know, because if you can, like, I know you're already currently working with some people, right? Some amputee. There's an amputee that you're working with,
so
and you're getting them to work out. You're getting them to.
I like paying it forward.
Yeah.
You know, and just like people helped me when I was an amputee, I didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
I remember when I was an amputee in the hospital, someone came to me and said, "Hey, look at this dude right here." And they pulled up Instagram. I wasn't even on Instagram back then. I look at this guy, I'm like, who is he? And his name is Derek Wida. He's an amputee, he's a first form athlete.
Yeah.
And I just saw this guy doing some kick-ass shit.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, fuck, I want to know who this guy is.
Yeah.
So he was my very, very first introduction to amputee life.
Yeah.
Because the only thing I knew about amputee before was that you're in a wheelchair, you're in bed, you're immobile.
Yeah.
And here I saw this dude fucking doing a bunch of crazy shit in the gym, you know, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, I want to do that shit, you know? I want to be like him too. And so during my recovery, I'll never forget, I was so excited one day that I got my first test socket. And the accident happened in February. I didn't get my first socket until like maybe December. Yeah. No, late November is when they started practicing. When they said, here's your socket to go home now, it was December 4th of that year. And I know that was Jay-Z's birthday. But I remember December 4th, I go home, and I remember I was so proud of myself that I posted something on Derek's page.
Yeah.
And he responded to me. And he's like, man, just do it, brother. You got this. Nah, nah, nah. And I was like, like I was so fucking pumped and motivated. Well, I know that feeling, and I love that feeling.
Yeah.
So if I can pay it forward to somebody else, I'm gonna fucking do it.
Yeah.
So what I started doing with the company that I'm involved with my leg, they build my leg. They're in Santa Ana. They're called Southern California Prosthetics. So what I do with them is at Self-Made at the gym, I do seminars for amputees. And I say, if you think that you lose a limb, that you lose a life, that you can't do shit, come to my gym on this day and I'll show you that that's not the case.
Yeah.
If you want to lift, I'll show you.
Yeah.
And I remember one time we had an amputee. She was a quadruple amputee, a sepsis survivor. No arms, no legs. Okay. And she went in there and she was at the seminar and we're talking and she goes, she said, my dream is to be able to jump rope again. Something as simple as jump rope.
Yeah.
But when you're non-ambulatory, it's not as easy. So I was like, you want to do jump rope? Fuck it. We're going to jump rope. Went and got a jump rope. I literally tied him around her wrist.
Yeah.
Because she couldn't grip. Tied him around her wrist. And I said, all right, cool. Put a belt around her. Like, if you fall, I'm catching you.
Yeah.
And she started doing it. And it took her a minute, and she did it. She got it. She got it going. She got it going. She got it going. And I shit you not, Migs, by a minute later, there was not a fucking dry eye in the house.
I'm like, not trying to get
everybody was like, wow.
Holy shit.
Because she was crying. Her caretaker was crying.
Yeah.
They were hugging me like, you made this happen. I was like, I didn't. Shit. I just helped. Yeah. She did it all, you know? And I love that feeling that she had, that empowerment that she had, that I was like, okay, I need to bottle that shit up and keep giving it out to people. Yeah. That's what I need to do. Yeah. Because, look, to me, in this world, you're either a giver or a taker. No, I'd rather give. Yeah, you know? 100%. So I said, if that's how I can, is that what I can do to make the world a better place?
And again, nothing's by accident. Look at the platform you're on, and the reason that you have this ability to reach now even more so is because of your background. You know, obviously, look at that 20-year career gave you the skill sets to be able to then develop an entrepreneurship. You already had entrepreneurship with your apartments. Those skill sets all help in business, which we're business driven because we all have independent contractors as personal trainers, right? But in the same token, you're now gifting that to the trainers, those skill sets to be able to develop successful careers. Then that platform created obviously the exposure you have now, right? With the self-made movement and with your movement of what you got going on with these amputees and being able to get them now to reach the masses. Because at one point you're on now on that other end where you know how you DM'd them, where you set that post. That feeling you get to duplicate 10x. Yeah. And that right there is, you can't put a price on that. You know? And I think if we can recap of what we just discussed is obviously the how-to, right? What would you say before we end our discussion, because we can go on for hours, and I really want our people to understand like, what would you say are the key fundamentals to the how to overcome obviously like I said, it's not an accident, but how to overcome these things that happen to us in our lives given your situation, you know, losing a career but gaining another. Who would ever fucking thought of that? Right? None of this, no one has a magic crystal ball. So what would be your how-tos?
That's a very good question. A very good question. I think number one, first and foremost, it starts with you. You have to believe in yourself. You have to know that when you get up and you look at yourself in the mirror, you have to know that, hey, you got this. Yeah. You can do it. You know, no matter what happens, okay? No matter what issue, no matter what comes your way, you just have to know at the end of the day, like I tell people, I will not lose. Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, no matter what, I will not lose. Yeah. No, it's just okay, if I'm losing, I'm redirecting. And
you're failing forward. Have you heard that?
Always. Yeah. Always. And trust me, I've failed many times in life.
Same. I continually fail.
All the time, exactly. Bro. I tell people all the time, it's not my first, and it won't be my last.
Nope. And even when you reach a certain type of success, there's still things that you're going to have to fall in your face, like flat on, and get over it, and then back on the horse.
But no matter what, you have to believe in yourself. You have to. You can't get it from nobody. You can't expect it from your mates. You can't expect it from your spouse. You can't expect it from your friends, colleagues. You can't expect them to push you. You have to believe in yourself. You have to know that at the beginning and end of the day and everywhere in between, you have to know that I got this. Yeah. I'm not going to lose. Yeah. So I think that's the easiest way to explain it. But like you said, we can talk about this forever.
Forever. And the thing is, I want to end with that too, is that, you know, I think it's great to mimic the great to be great, right? You had a very positive introduction into amputee because of the person that you were following, that you it happened to be a first form athlete.
Yeah, it was the first
performing. You know, if you guys are ever stuck in a really effed up situation and you can get stories like this and understand he was once at your point, and again, to overcome that, he took the advantage to mimic the great to be great, to also look at himself and look at ourselves deeply in the mirror and say, hey, what the fuck are we going to do about it today? That simple. Because I can relate with that. You know, when I hated my career as a plumber, and the thing that changed dramatically in business, my life, was getting into real estate. And my mentor at that time, 22 years ago, 21 years ago, you know, looked at me in the eye and says, when I'm bitching and complaining about what I hated, he told me, what the fuck are you going to do about it, Miguel? It's us. There's no one else. No one's going to fix. No one gives a shit. No one's going to do anything.
No one's coming to save you.
No one's going to save you.
I mean, you may think it's a romantic notion to think that you always have something to fall back on, somebody to rely on, and so forth. But fuck that bullshit.
Fuck it.
You know, like it's like the saying goes. Burn the boats. You ain't going fucking back.
You ain't going back.
You have to have that same mentality. I'm not gonna fucking lose.
Yep.
What are you gonna do about it? I'm gonna do this, and if that doesn't work, I'm gonna fucking do this. But I'm not going to lose. I will not lose.
100%. And like they say, the definition of insanity is doing the same shit over and over, expecting a different result. So whatever the fuck you're doing right now ain't working.
Change that shit.
Change that shit. Look, guys, we can go on forever. I'm super excited to have you here today. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule. We run a very successful location. How can people get a hold of you? What's your Instagram, Facebook, and your location?
My location is South Costa Mesa. We're at 740 West 16th Street in Costa Mesa. My Facebook is my name, Tomas Delamora. And then I have the Instagram pages. I have the Self-Made Training Facility CM, and then my personal Instagram. It's like a personal blog. Don't take me serious. All I do is talk shit and tell jokes on Instagram. That's what I like to do. But that's my first name. It's TOMAS_ my last name Delamora, DELAMORA.
If you guys want to get a hold of him, that's where to get a hold of him. Super excited again to share this story once again, and I hope you guys got something very valuable of his story. And look, be made or be molded.
Always. And if you ever have any questions, because like I said, I talk a lot and sometimes I talk in different directions. But if you have any questions, reach out to me. I love answering questions.
He won't neglect you. He really will answer you guys' question. Truly a man. Will help. We'll give a shirt off his back to make sure that you guys are.
I love being of service.
Yeah,
that's one
100%.
of my favorite things. Yeah.
And again, thank you guys so much. Self-Made Project.
Thank you.